And while I had the table in this orientation, I wanted to check how square the back is to the top of the table. So what I've done is we got the cylindrical square up there, and it's hard, I mean, other than light, using light as an indicator, I just put this 1, 2, 3 block in the back here, and as I come further down, so up here in the top, it's just passing through with some drag, and then down, further down, it's not going in, so the tabletop is not square to the back at this point either. I've decided I'm gonna scrape. I'm gonna leave the table as it is with whatever stresses are in it, and I'm just gonna scrape the back and the front of the table parallel. There's only, when I go with an indicator, there's only 2 thou in the middle here, so should be fairly simple to scrape it. And I've got the straight edge up on there now. And I can't see any light through here, which is a good thing. So it's not terrible. Like I said, 2 thou. And my setup here worked out pretty good with this lift device. I've got it sitting on the table. There's a little shelf on the table, gets it to a nice height to scrape, and then I've got the lift assist clamped here, so it's held on there good and strong. And so the plan is to we'll use the straight edge and start bluing it up and seeing what it looks like. One of the things that I thought I would do as I begin to blue this is verify this distance here, which this is the fixed way on the saddle, and this is the back side of the table. So I want to make sure that these are parallel only at the ends, because this top way, or the bottom way on the table, which would be the top way on the saddle, is worn in the middle. So as you move the dowel pin, it moves and drops. So what I want to know is, at either end, where is this dovetail? And on this end it's a 0.944 and a half, and on the other end it's 0.945, so it's only about a half a thou out from end to end right now. So as I scrape it, I'll be able to use these two ends as a reference to make sure that I have this back surface parallel to this fixed way. I've done about, I'm going to say, 7 spottings now. Still light in the middle. And this end is still a small area here, and I just measured the dowel again, and I'm still about a half thou high on this end. So I'm gonna double scrape this end right now. Just before I got too far along here, I wanted to verify the top of the table here with the back. Just verifying it with light at this point, and it looks good, so I'm going to keep going here. It may be a little unorthodox, but it's my best attempt at something to check the squareness of the table. on the surface plate. So my plan is I'm going to use this front edge here in the indicator so the tip of the indicator and the flat down here on this, this is all ground, the bottom's ground. So that's my plan, and to set it up on a 0, I'm going to set it on the granite surface plate like this, and I'm going to 0 out the indicator there. And this is the tense indicator, so I want to be as fine as I can. It doesn't like that. I think I got that repeating there now, so I'm going to use it and see what it tells us. I didn't actually plan that that at rest. The indicator's pretty close to 0 there, so it's got to go around once, and the table is sitting on the surface plate with the back side down, and we'll just bring this guy in here and see what we get. And that's not even touching, so that's not a good thing. That means we're about 8 thou tipped. So I'm going to check it in the middle and down at the other end, see what's going on here. I'm not going to just take this one measurement. I got to check a few different ways and see what's going on here. So I went back over to the surface plate and just verified, and it was not zeroing. So I've got it back over here, and I'm just going to roll it in. That's still showing about 6 thou light there. I'm going to go back and check that on the surface plate. It is zeroing again. And that's looking anywhere from 5.5 to 6 thou at that height. So I got to figure out what that translates into on the back side of the table, because the table's only, 2" 700 in that area, somewhere around there. So got to do a little math. So I did some basic math. If this is the top of the table, and it's 7" 400 to the top where the indicator is measuring, and this is across the back of the table, which is 2.7. and I know I'm 6th thou light up here, which means we want to tip this 6th thou, which means we got to scrape up here at the front or the top of the table. We got to take something off of there, but it's not 1-to-1. It's actually closer to 3-to-1, just intuitively, with 7.5 inches there and 2.7 there. Anyways, when I went through the trig, it's about 0.046 degrees that it has to move, and to solve for this step here that we want, it's this distance here times the tan of the angle up here, which gives us 2 thou 2/10. So we got to start taking material off of that edge and tip the table. So that back edge of that table is not yet straight and flat, so that's good, and that's kind of why I wanted to check it at this point. I was just using a square to make sure we were close, but now we have to start tipping it, which we can step scrape. So if this is the back of the table, we can cut it into thirds, we can cut it into quarters, and so you do one pass this way here, you do a second pass and you cover 2 areas, and then you do a third pass. So what happens is if you looked at these 3 areas across the whole length of the table, this would end up with 3 passes, 2 passes, and 1 pass, right? So depending on how much material is coming off, that starts to change that angle on that face. One of the things that I wanted to do while the table was on the surface plate in this orientation was to check this surface here, which is the front of the table, relative to the back of the table, just to see if I picked up that 2 thou across this surface, which I do, which I believe means if I take the 2 thou off the back to tip the table, I will end up with the front and the back parallel to one another. And the other thing that I have checked, this end to the other end, is 0, 0 on the top side, which means the scraping in the orientation this way on the back that I've been doing is good. I've got a flat surface that way. I just need to tip to get the back perpendicular to the top of the table. So in order to put the tip in the back of this table here, to get this, the top and the back of the table parallel, I need to take 2 thou off at this end and nothing at this end. So it's a technique called step scraping. So what's going to happen is I'm going to scrape. I'll scrape in this direction on that section. I'll scrape this direction on the 2. I'll come back and I'll scrape this direction on 3. And I'll come back and I'll scrape this direction on 4. So what happens is this quarter of the back of the table will end up being scraped 4 times, 3 times, 2 times, and once. So this would be the first scraping pattern, the second, the third, the fourth, and so what happens is you end up taking 4 times off this side versus this side, which only gets scraped once. So at this point, I scraped that quarter. I scraped the half, and what I just did now, I just used the surface gauge, or the height gauge. I zeroed it on a known flat surface, and then I bridged from this half over to here, and I'm already minus 2 thou. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to blend this half through to this half, and then I'll make sure it's flat again, and then we'll put it up on the table, because if I keep going I'll get 2 more passes on each of these sections, and I may end up overshooting that too. So I'm better off to creep up on it than to overshoot it and then have to scrape back the other way. So I've blended that, filed it, got all the high spots out, and I've got it good and clean, and I'm just going to spot it right now. Got the master all blued up, ready to go. Looks pretty decent. There might be just a touch too much bluing on that master. I'm gonna clean it off, get the master ready, and do it one more time. Got it cleaned off again, and I'm gonna just rework the bluing back into the master, and then we'll see what we get. Very similar pattern, just a little lighter. And I see I got a low spot in here. So I'm going to maybe do 2 cycles and see if I can bring this in. Got the table back on the surface plate. I've set up the tense indicator on the granite surface plate, same way I had in the past, and I thought, you know what, I'm gonna check it against the cylindrical square, and I think it's actually better setting it up this way here, because this is the orientation that it sits in to check the part. So I've got that zeroed out, and what I'm finding is right now I'm averaging anywhere from 2 to 2.5 thou. Both ends. I've checked both ends now, so just depending on the surface finish, which is obviously from scraping marks. So that means we still need to tip it just a little bit. 2 thou at this distance here is only going to be I don't know, about 7/10 on the back side of the plate here, so I should be able to get that with a couple of passes in the right spots, and then we'll get it back up on the plate and check it again. And the other thing I'm going to do right now is I'm just going to verify again the parallelism of the front and the back at on the ends. I've got the table back on the surface plate, and it's been quite a challenge. This is the third time I've had it up here, and in between some variety of step scraping and just I guess nothing more than just a somewhat educated guess on where I had to go with removing the spotting to induce the tip that I wanted. I actually went too far. I ended up with the table tipping forward about 1 thou up here at 6 inches. Anyway, it's about 3 tries here, and probably a couple hours total scraping, and this is where we are right now. That's a tenths indicator, so it's 1 or 2 tenths at 6 inches there, depending on the scraping marks. I can't do 2 thumbs up because I'm holding the camera, but I'm pretty happy with that now.